Thank you, President. I want to start by acknowledging all the traditional owners of the lands that we are privileged to represent right across Victoria. And I'm proud that we have had truth-telling in our state. I'm proud that for 5 years an elected First Peoples Assembly has operated in Victoria. And I'd be proud to be supporting this statewide treaty bill here in Victoria. And President, I'm proud that we have implemented these steps, and we have listened to, we have worked with, we have walked with our First Peoples, and I'm proud that we've done the hard yards over that decade, for our ministers to go through truth-telling, which, in listening to them, hasn't been an easy process, but one that has strengthened our government's resolve. The journey we've been on, and this week we will vote to pass, has been to get better outcomes. And we've heard those opposite saying, you do better to the government. We're saying we need to try something different. It doesn't matter whether it's us, whether it's you. We're here putting our hands up saying, let's try something different. Yet today we have not heard something different from the Conservative politicians opposite, who want to stick with the status quo, who are seemingly incapable of progress, that progress will see the sky fall in. And not to trivialise what we're talking about here today, but whether we're talking about moving from plastic bags to paper bags, smoking in bars, seatbelts in cars, it's always too difficult. Treaty was an opportunity for those opposite to strive for better. Momentarily, they were for treaty. Only a few years ago, they supported it until they sensed a political opportunity to go against it, and they did. That's why I'm proud to be in a party that has stuck to policies based on values for a decade, not opportunism. We've heard today what I consider to be flimsy dog whistles as to why Victorians should not have treaty with its First Peoples. The treaty would establish layers of chairs, committees, meetings, lawyers. Gee, that sounds a hell of a lot like what we have and what we do in here, and we all get paid pretty well to do it. That the Assembly, which has existed for 5 years, will set its own rules, do things like have internal dispute resolution, autonomy on decision-making. Now, read ominously into Hansard, that does sound pretty concerning. That does sound pretty risky, doesn't it? Until you have a think, how does a local footy club operate? Yeah, they probably resolve their own disputes and differences. How does a not-for-profit work? How do sports clubs work? So I think some of the language that we've heard today has taken pretty simple principles and made them sound incredibly ominous. And of course now the new idea that has blown in on the wind, a standalone department, a new bureaucracy. The same bureaucracies that those opposite are supposed to be against. But that is their 11th hour solution, a paternalistic bureaucracy to come in and carry on effectively the status quo. So why do the Liberals want more bureaucracy when we already have a democratically elected representative body that represents all regions? Now, we've heard today from those opposite that not all Aboriginals agree on everything. Now, I was blown away, I was stunned by that. But it is a good thing that we have 33 delegates elected, representatives from a whole variety of views of our First Peoples across our great state. So I think this sort of idea that, that a multitude of views aren't going to be heard is absolute rubbish. And the fact that this body is going to just frolic off and do whatever it wants, it is a democratic body, first of all accountable to the First Peoples of Victoria, to be elected in or out, as are all of we, and it will be accountable to the Parliament, it will be accountable to IBAC, it will be accountable to the Ombudsman, and it will be accountable to the Victorian Auditor General. On the matter of division, President, I'm of Irish descent, so I feel a little for the idea that our First Peoples want to say in housing, health, education, matters that affect them. And on the idea of having more say, like I represent a region that has metropolitan, regional, rural. And when I'm particularly out with rural communities, they want to have more say on matters that impact them. They don't want what feels like foreign bureaucracies telling them how their towns, their districts should be run. And to me, it's exactly the same principle. It's exactly the same principle. So we've heard today that, from those opposite, that Aboriginal people, Victorians, don't understand this. And I was talking to a student in the last 24 hours, a grade 1, and I was trying to talk about what I'd be doing today. So I wanted to simplify it. I actually thought, how do I simplify it? And I thought of Adam Goods's book. And I grabbed it this morning, and I'm glad I did, because apparently those opposite aren't able to comprehend, or Victorians aren't able to comprehend why we're here. And this is a beautiful book by Adam Goods. I'll just read a few pages. For thousands and thousands of years, Aboriginal people lived in the land we now call Australia. The land was where people built their homes, played in the sun, and sat together to tell stories. When the white people came, they called it the land Terra Nullius. They said it was nobody's land, but it was somebody's land. So I'm glad it's been put in a kid's book. I think it simplifies it so that we can all understand it. Because when I grew up as a kid in regional Victoria, I remember going up from our school to King Billy's Seat. And I remember thinking, wow, this thing from thousands of years ago, what a distant, past thing that doesn't impact or affect any of us now. And as I've gotten a bit older, and as we hear stories today from Mr. Berger about Lauren, when we've heard stories from my colleague Sheena, connecting with her family, someone of our generation still connecting with their family now. And when we think back that treaties have been going on all around the world, and 200 years ago, the English were looking into this. So I asked the opposition, what would they do if they'd have been on the banks of the Yarra 200 years ago? And if they'd have said no then, are they going to say no now? And if now, when will you say yes? Thank you.